Dr. Ekomo, staying with the issue of prioritizing things, he's talked about strategy. But that's the human side of this thing, work, health, I'm trying to break down the things that affect the human, school, religion, and all of that. All of these things affect the humans, from the child to the adult. You talked about the low mortality rate. You talked about the amount of children that die per day.
High mortality rate.
High mortality rate. Yes. High mortality rate. So, but have these things, even with what Mr. Gusau is saying that the government is doing, do you think we are on course?
The answer is hard to say. Which of my hats should I wear, a diplomatic hat or that of a Nigerian? And I think I'll wear that of Nigerian. I actually think that not enough is being done. I think there's a lot of lip service and there's not enough action.
So you agree with Tijani that because government is involved?
I will not say that. I think that government is trying their best. But the answer is the fact that everybody in the world understands that public-private partnership is the way to go. Government cannot do this alone. This is a humanitarian crisis. We need that collaboration. They need to recognize the vital role. But private sector can only play where they're needed. If this master plan, this Marshall Plan, is not open to the public, if I ask you right now, if I go to a website and I'd say, what are the things that we need in each of those local governments, of each of those states, in Borno, in Yobe, and so on and so forth, is there any website like that? I can tell you no. What can I do in my own small way if I want to start a campaign and everybody does a little bit, a little bit of
that. Ask people to just donate
a little bit.
Naira
so
each.
I want to be able to build, for example, I want safe schools. We want to be able to build 1,000 safe schools, a place where children can go and have some resemblance of a life of a child. We will give them their food, we will give them education, we will help the teachers. Buildings, with all due respect to government, do not make education. You need empowered teachers that are passionate to make a difference, that their security is upheld, that the children can come to school every day, and that their parents have a source of livelihood. So the kids can only be useful if their parents will allow them to come to school. Indeed. The parents, you're saying you're going to ask them to leave the IDP camps and go back. Go back to what? If I don't have a source of livelihood, my source of livelihood has been destroyed. What do? We need to be able to empower these parents with vocational skills to give them some kind of grant.
But he said they're going back to their normal ways of living. I mean, they're going back to their farms.
It sounds like theory.
What about the mental reconstruction?
There are children who haven't seen their parents, either A, because they're orphans, or B, because they have been separated. We need to reunite those families. When they're reunited, we need to reorientate them. Some of them have gone through psychological trauma. Children have seen things that kids should never see. How many of us have seen blood, seen people killed in front of you, seen their parents shot, slaughtered like animals? It's real psychological trauma. We need to fix this system. And Nigerians need to know. I think one of our biggest challenges is that many of us are ignorant. We really don't know what's going on in our own country. The news is so subdued. I thank you for this program today because this is the beginning of this awareness creation. But Nigerians are really empowered and want to do things, but need to know what to do. What could we do in healthcare, for example?
Now, we don't have enough time to look at this like we would like to, because it's time for us to wind down already.
Wow.
Yes, I know. Somebody has to act that role.
But we do need to leave here with some solutions.
I am the person, because we need to wind down now. So I need to ask each of you the way forward. Let me start with Mr. Gusau in Abuja. What's the way forward?
The office of the Vice President worked for almost 1.5 years. The Vice President was in Maiduguri, I think, in 2016, in January or so. He launched what is called a master plan for the Northeast. My only concern is that there hasn't been practical support from the federal government up till now. But we know that the support, would come. So for now, it's not as if there is no plan. And the Borno State government is actually managing both the humanitarian crisis and the reconstruction at the same time. Look, a lot of people sit down and talk. People are underestimating this crisis. We have a record of 52,000 unaccompanied orphans in Maiduguri. These orphans are under our care. There is a special program. We are working with the UNICEF, to provide psychosocial counseling for these children. Currently, Governor Shettima has approved the building of 21 mega schools. Each of these schools has got hostels, has got places for early child care, has got, we are going into an arrangement for foster parenting. We have 54,000 widows. Right now, as I'm talking to you, we have come up with a plan where we are identifying a kind of peer mechanism where a widow will voluntarily say if she has, for instance, one child, she's ready to become a foster parent to 2 other orphans. And then we will pair them. These schools that we are building, none of these schools is to accommodate less than 800 pupils. The target is to create admission for at least 25,000 out of these 49,000 orphans. Since October, from October to date, only three organs are providing, food for these IDPs that we have: the World Food Program and the ICRC and the Borno State government. The World Food Program and the ICRC, as we know, they are funded by international donor countries. In the last 5 months, the Borno State government has not received food from the National Emergency Management Agency. Maybe they have issues. We have not received food from the PCNI. The Borno State government is shouldering this responsibility with this international. So it's not as if a lot are going on. And I'm offering an invitation to Mrs. Omasei to come down to Maiduguri. All our sectors have plans. The focus of Governor Kashim Shettima are basically 4. He's focused on education, focused on healthcare, focus on rebuilding homes and agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Gusau. We will anchor it there because the others have to make their closing statements. The way forward, Mrs. Omasei.
Again, I will reiterate that public-private partnership is the way to go. As there is a master plan, a Marshall Plan, please create more awareness on that. Create a website, a place where Nigerians can do crowd giving. We can choose different areas which we want to be able to buy into and support, and that there's monitoring and evaluation that I can see where my money is being spent. If it's a school I'm building, that I can see that impact.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I think we also need to be able to use technology. In the healthcare industry, there are not enough healthcare workers or midwives to be able to fill these hospitals that are being built. So we need to look at new and innovative ways to be able to provide healthcare. And we in the Healthcare Federation and our members can do this.
Dr. Ekomu.
Thank you very much, Auntie Alero.
Your last word.
Thank you. I think we got to have a planned development of the Northeast. It's not the titles, it's not whether there's a master plan or not, it's what we're implementing and what kind of cerebral muscle went into developing those plans. Because we have to know, like Mr. Omasei said, this is still Nigeria we're talking about. And so we are all equally invested. It doesn't belong to anybody. Yes, you might be from one part, but the problems in the Northeast are reverberating even in my own home state. They are reverberating in the Northeast, like I said last week. So we must have a very reasoned approach. That's why I said, let's look at even the Marshall Plan. Let's copy that. But then it must be governed, it must be managed, because that you can't send people home to get slaughtered. That's criminal.
Okay. Mr. Gusau, before we let you go, the governor announced a December 22nd Sambisa Memorial Day. What's the significance of that?
The significance is actually a psychological warfare that we think the Boko Haram naturally wouldn't want. Psychological warfare is an effective tool in counterinsurgency operation. The governor wants to create a political will in support of the military to celebrate the strength of the military, celebrate the conquer of Sambisa, and importantly, to create a day where the whole of the people of Borno State will continually remember the victims of the Boko Haram crisis. Don't forget that he also requested that he wants a partnership with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Federal Ministry of Defense for us to have a Sambisa Fall and International Research Center, a kind of museum, so that we can document the history of the Boko Haram and all these recoveries that the military was done, so that the future, we so that we do not, because in Nigeria we have a culture of forgetting the problems that we have had. He feels there's a need for us to document this. That's why the Sambisa Memorial Day will be there to continue serve as a remembrance for the people of Borno, for us to remember the problems that we have had so that we can learn from it.
Thank you. Issa Gusau is the spokesman to the Borno State Governor. Thank you very much for coming. And he joined us from our studio in Abuja. And in our studio in Lagos, we had security expert, Mr. Dr. Ona M. Ekomu, as well as President, Healthcare Federation of Nigeria, Claire Omasheye. I took the lady last. Thank you all very much for coming. Sunrise will return with another interesting conversation in just a moment. Join us.